I've got people booked all the way into December.
Oh, so fantastic. Well done.
Just waiting for our guest and then others.
Hello.
Are you, Anup?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you for joining. We'll give it another minute. A few people have registered, so I'll give it another minute and then we'll start. Lachlan's been here before, so he knows the drill. And Lachlan is also a guest in a few weeks' time. Might get going. And if people join, they can join as we go, or they can watch the recording. So welcome to another episode of Points, Lines and Polygons. Thank you for everyone for joining. Our guest today on his journey from Nepal to Australia, Anup. So thank you for joining us, Anup. So just a bit of housekeeping. If it's really just going to be a sort of a chat as we go through, and then if people have questions, they can just either put them in the chat or take themselves off mute, and we'll have a question answer session at the end. So let's get into it. And one of the reasons why I thought it would be interesting to have a chat with you, Anup, was more around, well, partly that journey from Nepal to Australia. Nepal's one of my favourite countries. I've trekked around Annapurna, and I had a great time there. But also someone who is in that GIS development area and very much into the open source side of things. And that's not to say there's anything wrong with the commercial software, but I think there's a lot of advantages and different ways of doing things using open source software. So welcome again. And we can really just essentially start as far back as you really want to go. I sort of say that each webinar, but I guess it's really where you're comfortable. And going back, because I really want to understand where you got into the spatial industry. Obviously, your trek from Nepal to Australia. So where would you like to start?
Okay, first of all, thank you for inviting me here. So I would like to start from after completing my graduation. So I completed my bachelor's degree from Nepal, from Kathmandu University. I did my bachelor's in environmental science. So in 2019, I completed my bachelor's degree, and then I was confused, so where in which sector do I make my career? So I was in that bridging stage, and then I I like certainly got interested in GIS, and then I started exploring like what are the organizations that are working in my countries, and then I finally landed an internship in a company called NOSA. So they are quite famous in Nepal. So they have been working with governments, private sectors, and then I did some internship there. So as a starting point, so that's how I like start working as a GIS professional. So initially, like I worked as a GIS analyst. So I was learning fundamentals because my background was not related to GIS. Because environmental science, we do used to have like lectures about GIS fundamentals, but it was not good enough. So then I learned a lot of things in my internship. Also, I did online courses at that time from Coursera. So that's how it began uh, my uh, professional career in GIS. And
And
then,
what sort of,
yeah,
I
yes, yeah.
was going to say, what
Yeah.
sort of projects did you work on as part of that internship in Nepal?
So at my initial days, I used to create like a training session for government officials. Like we used to train how to use Google Earth Engine. So as I remember, we used to train the government official who are more into like managing the water resources. So we used to create a session where we can teach them like how to use GIS, mainly the Google Earth Engine, uh, to do like better analysis for their use case. So
Nice.
that's how it started. But later I switched into GIS development. So that is a different story. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so from that internship, where did you go from there?
No, in that same like company, I then worked as a GIS developer because I certainly got like interested working as a GIS developer. And at that time, I was not sure like whether I need to continue on being a GIS analyst or GIS developer because at that time also I was learning data science. So initially I thought like I could go into that domain, data science, but yeah, later I decided like I am more interested in GIS development. So that's from where I got into this GIS development.
I think that's you sort of talk about which path to take. But often, um, to be a good developer, you need to understand how to do the analysis or how to produce the map or what the information is containing. So I think a developer actually has a lot of those. You're part analyst, you're part cartographer, you're part developer. So you're bringing all of those things together.
Yeah, so initially I was also stuck working on like as a data scientist. So if I realized that like I can quickly jump into GIS development, so I could have saved a lot of time. So I just figure out later that one. Uh, so yeah, that also helped me now that knowledge also. So I don't say that is useless, but yeah, it helped me along in this journey. And
And
then yeah, in this
so,
yeah.
yep. And so from there, is that when you came after that? Did you then come to Australia to then continue your studies, or how did that transition happen from Nepal to Australia?
No, so in that company, like I work more than 2 years. So from 2019, and up to 2000, maybe around 21 to 22, I work there, and then I then later joined like two European companies in meantime. So on the first one, I used to create a portal where we can process drone data. So I worked for a Danish company for more than a year, and then I later joined a Italian company, GeoSolution. So they mostly work on managing the open source software, and then I worked there for half an year, more than 1.5 years, and then I finally landed here in Australia. Yeah.
So were those roles with those Italian company and the Danish company, were they in country or were they sort of remote roles that you were able to do?
So that were both remote roles. Yeah, both of them were remote roles.
And did you find it was it that they would just give you tasks to do and you would just do it, or did you have to work, in their time frame, in their time zone, I guess, in terms of like start working at 9 o'clock and work till 5 o'clock in Italian time or in Danish time, or did you just have tasks to do?
No, both of them were full time job. Mostly like the time zone where so we can work in our time zone also, but we also need to have some overlapping time so that we can discuss. So we used to have like 2-3 hours of overlapping time, so that was not like required. So the time zone should be the same.
Nice. And I guess that's one of the good things about GIS development, and I've been able to meet a number of remote GIS developers around the world, and it certainly has opened up. As long as you get the work done and the project is there and everything, then the time zones aren't an issue.
Yeah.
And so um, what sort of technologies did you use for those two organizations?
Yeah, mostly for three of the organization. Like I do also work for some of the startup. Like I work for Indonesian startup. There are some startup I also work for them like as a part time. But yeah, these were the three most organization I was involved as a full time developer. So in all three of these, I used to work mostly on open source tools. uh, y- but yeah, the first one, they are service based company, so they also have client who needs solution in ArcGIS or SDS ecosystem also. So the the later two one, they were more product based. The first one was service based. So yeah, but most of the solution we used to deliver, they were in open source software.
And did you find using open source software that it was a steep learning curve for you, in terms of that there's just not as many people out there doing it? Or did you find that you were able to learn and get mentoring or reach out to people?
Yeah, in open source, there are a lot of tools, software, or packages. They do the same thing, but uh, if we only use them, all of them, then I think we can get lost. I think we need to first master the fundamentals, and then we can choose one. So if we are not sure, then yeah, we could get lost in open source ecosystem. So one of the disadvantage about the open source ecosystem is this also. Yeah, we could get lost. Yeah, and also like my so in the first like two organization, I used to work mostly on open source, but later I joined Italian company, so they were mostly managing the same software. Like they were, I think, also one of the project of OCO, so GeoServer and GeoNode. So they were also managed by OCO Foundation. So I also like it was like a journey from using them and again later being a contributor of them. So one of them. So yeah, it was like I also didn't imagine. So I would work for that.
And then from there, how did you end up here in Australia?
So yeah, I was from past 2 years working for creating a, a solution to better represent 3D data, mostly creating a digital twins for different types of environments. And in my last role, we used to process raw drone data, and then we used to create uh, tools to create digital twins. So from that, so I realized some of the limitation in existing software, and then I also like want to do more research on that, and then I approached some of the professor here, and then I finally uh, received offer letter from here in University of Southern Queensland, and then yeah, I joined in this year.
And what does that master's involve for you?
So yeah, it is mostly like creating a digital twin using open source solution, and also finally like publishing this platform or a workflow to help different planners and other policymakers to create a digital twin from different geospatial data set. Like you can create from lidar data sets, vector data sets, all the data sets we have. So it is uh, one of them is that, and there is also like I'm also working on mining data sets. So where we capture different types of data set like drone, lidar data set, and then we will create a 3D representation using AI. So instead of using the traditional methods, we are using AI to help creating the 3D model faster. So these are my two topics. So I am working on my thesis.
And how are they going? Are you progressing well with that research?
Yes, the first one like working with mining data sets. So uh, it's about to finish. So we are also like publishing the paper in a couple of weeks. So yeah, we are planning to submit. And for the second one, so I have been like working with Ipswich Council. So I'm trying to get the data sets. So it is like taking some time there. But yeah, the methodology and other technical part, they are mostly completed. I'm waiting for the data sets and other things.
And and once again, are you mostly using open source for your research?
Yes, I'm like mostly using open source at this time.
And
Yeah.
and so was the use of open source in your research, was that sort of encouraged by the university, or was that a choice that you decided to make because that's what you knew?
No, it's the choice that I made. I don't know, maybe university is interested or not, because yeah, they do like my thesis. That's why they give me offer later. but yeah, choosing open source tools and software. So that is my decision till now.
Basically, you've gone, here's what I want to try and research, and this is how I'm going to do it, and they've sort of backed you up for that.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. And it's interesting because I've done some work with various universities, but never gone down that whole research path. I've done projects but I do find it interesting because I think there's a lot of great technology out there, and we do need people to do that research to then create pathways for new technology or new approaches, all those sorts of things. And especially if someone could be either listening or they read your paper and go, oh, that's a great sort of use of the technology. And I do think that's one of the really, I think we're in a really good time at the moment. As you mentioned, there's some AI going in there. You're using different aerial tools, lidar and drone and all those sorts of things, where the especially I think drone technology allows 10, 15 years ago, when people wanted to do aerial imagery, they'd have to go and fly a helicopter or fly a plane, or and that can be quite expensive. But now with sending a drone up, and the number of organizations who seem to be adopting that technology is pretty amazing. So
Yeah. I'm also like exploring like what are the things that are still what are the things we can automate in different industry. Like I am um, uh, I've been talking with people who are working here in minings and other industry, so that we can automate or we can breeze any problems they have.
and I think sometimes when you do those sorts of projects, out of that, they will start thinking about how can we do things better. So it's not necessarily trying to solve, you might be trying to solve a problem, but out of that, what I think one of the real benefits is people start seeing how technology can be used. And then they go, well, what if we did it for this process or this part of the business, and then I think it value adds to your work, and gets people. So your work becomes like a catalyst to start that next stuff, and hopefully that leads to, for you, to be involved in those projects. Excuse me. But I think it it's great to see those pathways being created and the different types of projects that you're doing, within mining and within more of a planning environment, because they're obviously two very different arenas, but obviously have lots of crossover with the technology that you're using and how you're using it. So from here, how much longer have you got for your master's?
Yeah, it is like 2 years masters. So it's been only like 6 months, so 4 months, I think. Yeah, there is still a time to complete my master's.
And so is it, so for the next year and a half, is it building on those projects that that you've done so far, or is it looking at other areas as well?
Yeah, technically, like we only need to publish like one paper in a Q1 journal to complete a master's by research. But you can even go more, so it depends on you. But we need to we need to enroll for 2 years, so that's a minimum requirement here. So I think I will uh, uh, polish my work more, or I will also we can work on our relevant sectors to gain more experience in the industry, and then we can also use that in our research. So due to this, they also give us like a full-time working rights, so that we can have experience in the industry also. So yeah, so I'm also trying to explore that right now.
And so is that your plan for the next, year and a half or more, to continue the research and then try and get some work in the GIS industry in Australia?
Yes. So I'm also trying to gain local experience, because even if you are if you have experience 2-3 years of experience technically, you need to have uh, local experience also, like how people communicate in GIS industry, so a lot of other things. So I'm looking for entry level roles uh, to experience this.
And I think it's a fairly brave move for anyone to go and study and work in another country, and it is important to get that local experience. Um, but I also find it funny that some organisations put local experience over international experience, especially with GIS, in that it can be used across everything, across the world. It's not like yes, if you're in a local council's environment, you want to understand how local councils work, but in general, how you develop something is the same in Australia as it would be, as you've proved already, in Italy and Denmark and in Nepal. Um, so what sort of advice would you give to someone who wants to become a GIS developer?
So I think you can start immediately. Uh, you need to uh, learn front end development, back end development. So uh, you can start immediately, because I was initially lost for 6 to 8 months, because I told you I was confused whether I need to be a data scientist or GIS developer. So I think you can start immediately. I don't think we don't also need GIS analyst experience, but yeah, that will also help. But you can start learning front end and back end. So they are mostly related to computer science background. So we also need to learn that by ourselves. So yeah, we can start immediately. And also there are different pathway, like you can choose open source, or you can also learn with Esri's ecosystem. So that's I think any pathway you can choose, but if you are going through open source, then I think we can learn a lot, because we can also see how things are implemented. So in Esri's, maybe sometimes we like to see how things are implemented, so we cannot see them. So yeah.
And I think that's actually a really good point, because when we use commercial software, in this case, Australia predominantly uses the Esri suite of applications, but but it's been developed so you don't necessarily need to know what's going on behind the scenes, which is fine if you're doing some analysis or whatever. But if you want to take that development path, you need to understand, all right, well, how do I interact with these tools? How do I, you know, even from an Esri point of view, you know, they have APIs and they have developer, you know, functions and stuff like that, that you can do those functions from the front end, or you can do them as a developer, you know, and coding them. And I think that's really where developers really come into their own, in that you get to know how the systems work, rather than just how do I get to the end result. And I think that's a really different skill set. You know, not everyone needs to be a developer, but I think being a developer gives you a completely new set of skills that, you know, a pure analyst or a cartographer or whatever doesn't necessarily have. So.
Yeah, I also like to add like one more thing. Yeah, in open source there is only one downside. Like there are a lot of tools to do same work, and they are also based on the same ground. So for an example, like most of the open source tools, they use GDAL to read geospatial data, and so I think you can directly launch GDAL instead of using the higher level packages. So we call them wrappers in technical terms. So if we work with wrappers, like same different wrappers which do the same work, then yeah, in this case we can get lost. So that's only the disadvantage in open source. Otherwise, yeah, you can choose this path. So if you want to know how things work in the backend.
And I do agree. I wouldn't consider myself. I've done GIS development, but I don't necessarily consider myself a GIS developer. I sort of consider myself as a bit of a I know bits of everything. You know, I know how to do analysis. I know how to do, you know, Earth observation stuff. I know how to do some programming, and I know how to do some Python. But I wouldn't. And it really comes down to the project that I'm working on. You know, what tools do I need to use? And I do agree that you can get lost in because the different wrappers, as you sort of your term, you know, have been written by someone who's gone, I haven't found a tool to do this for a specific reason. And so you can go, oh, what if I use that? Or what if I use this? And so, yes, it could go. And then you might go, oh, well, neither of them worked. So I need to either do something myself or find a different approach. And yes, that can be, I think the biggest thing, you know, with any software tool, whether it's open source or commercial, is knowing how to find an answer, and whether that answer comes from, you know, an online forum or, you know, a help document, or, you know, certainly AI these days, you know, if the learning model has that open source information in it, then it might be able to be helped. So yeah, I think it's been very interesting sort of chatting with you about that, because I really like the open source data and software and all those sorts of things. It's not necessarily, like, from my point of view, when I'm doing projects, it's really what the client wants it done in. And so sometimes I get to play in open source, sometimes it's, you know, in a commercial sense. So it's really using the right tools for the right job, I think, where you can. So I guess from here, are you happy to answer a couple of questions if people have some questions for you?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So if anyone has any questions of Anup, then certainly, there we go. Lachlan, fire away.
Thanks, Dean, and thank you, Anup, for sharing so far. Before I ask my question, I thought it'd be interesting to share that, like Dean, I've also trekked the Annapurna Ranges in Nepal, just a beautiful part of the world. So it's wonderful to see here in Australia. Congratulations on all of your success so far. While you were speaking, you made a brief mention of digital twins, and I noticed in your event description as well, you also mentioned 3D spatial computing. If you wouldn't mind speaking a little bit more about what you've done, but also coming ahead if you anticipate doing any more work in that space, or if not, why you wouldn't work anymore in 3D spatial computing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, that is actually a like interesting question. Also, I have also not visited like Annapurna, but yeah, since I'm from Nepal also because I didn't get that time. Yeah, coming back to the question, since 3D AI and real-time data sets, I think they are the next future in geospatial industry. So I think uh, because 3D become popular because of the recent advancement in hardware because of the latest GPU. And nowadays, like we mostly are working on 3D data sets. And why I choose 3D is because uh, we can get like more detail than 2D. So now also the industry is like trying to get more insights about their data for decision making or any other things that they want through 3D data. Uh, Also, like I am working on digital twin project because I do like create. I previously I created tools to process aerial imagery. So we have around 40,000 images at that time, and we couldn't process the data in commercial software because processing 40,000 images in commercial software like we couldn't do that, so we need to automate the processes. So then we try to find some open source tools, and at that time we followed the traditional photogrammetry pathway, but I realized that it will take a lot time. Like it took around like 40 days to process the whole images. And I thought like we can use AI to process the data set. Like there are new methods called Gaussian splitting, and that will save a lot of time. So that's why I am like using that technology to create a digital twin. So yeah.
Can
Also like
I,
yeah,
sorry,
sorry.
no, please go, Anup.
Yeah, also like there is one disadvantage in like working 3D data set. Like we need like more expensive like resources like hardware. We need higher compute GPUs. So that is one disadvantage. Like
Do you mind, Dean, if I quickly ask a follow-up question? Because I think you've touched on a really interesting one, Anup. In quite a number of these points, lines, and polygons I've attended, the conversation inevitably turns to AI. It's all around us. We're all using it for for the benefit. But once again, you make an interesting point about so many images and the photogrammetric processes required. You bring AI into that, and you almost let go of some of that control where you would be, doing a lot of this work yourself. Has it been a positive experience bringing these AI systems into what is a very challenging and complex system, or it's been perfect from the start? Everything has just worked flawlessly.
no, it is quite successful. Like in my previous work, it took a lot of time. Now in my research, so I do work on the algorithms, and now it is quite fast. So yeah, it is quite successful.
Fast and also accurate too.
Yeah, it is more accurate. We can see a lot of details because in traditional photogrammetry we also lose a lot of details. So sometimes like the thin transmission line, so they are not represented in the 3D models, but with the AI methods you can also see the very thin transmission line, so that is quite advantage. So yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
And I do think that that's actually a very good point in terms of the models, the AI models are getting better and better. I think we still need, there's still that some level of caution, because you need to have enough knowledge to go, this is what I want it to do. Is the result accurate, correct? Especially I would think, when you're trying to process 40,000 images, then, one of the things I've noticed with AI is the longer the chain, the more likely it is to make a mistake. And now, if you're just doing the same thing 40,000 times, then yes, the opportunity to make a mistake is less. But if you're trying to bring the 40,000 into a big chain, there's a fair chance that the 40,000th image might be worse than the first image. I don't know whether it is or not, but I think there are things that we need to just be aware of in using the new tools. It's part of what we need to do, and where we're going to go from here. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Also, like one problem like we try to solve here, like so most of the survey form, they use traditional photogrammetry. So they collect the raw data sets and they process, and then the traditional method is like quite it is quite time consuming. And then now there is also AI method, like people also create 3D models with AI. But the models that are created from AI, so they are not measurement accurate. Like you cannot estimate a volumetric we cannot like properly estimate the volume. So one problem I'm also working on that is like how can we uh, estimate a proper volume from the model we get from AI. So that is also one section I'm working on, because nowadays like they are using AI to create 3D model to get like better detail. So as I have already mentioned, we can get like very thin detail also, but they are using traditional method to create model and then estimate the volume. So there are two approaches, so they are like more expensive. So one thing is like if we can directly measure the volume from the AI model, then it will also save time, and we can also do like volume analysis. So that is also one thing I'm working on.
Well, any further questions from anyone on the line at the moment? If not, we will wrap it up. So I thank you, Anup, for your time today. It's been great to learn more about your journey and the tools that you use and the technology that you're researching. I do find it great to just chat and learn, especially from when I started my career. I was still hand drawing maps, and interestingly, I loved being in the dark room creating negatives for film production. And people will go, "What's a dark room now?" Because I like, but technology changes, and I think the big thing is to keep learning and keep adapting, and not be afraid of the technology, because if you embrace it, I think you're then going to able to use it better. So appreciate your time today. Next week we have Matthew George from Alcoa. He's the GIS manager for Alcoa in Western Australia. So we're going to chat to him about what Alcoa use GIS for, and we'll go from there. So thank you everyone for your attendance today. It's always interesting, and thank you very much, and enjoy your day.
Thank you. Bye bye everyone. Thank you.
Bye for now.